Okay, welcome everybody, and welcome to the playing field and another bumper edition of Coach in Focus. Today we have Mr. Scott Hales, who's joining us live from Wellington, and really excited to have one of our regular guests that's contributed to a few of the episodes today for a special one-on-one session. So first of all, Scotty, thank you very much for joining us, and how's things in Wellington?
Yeah, Stephen, thanks for inviting me on. Wellington's good at the moment. Obviously, government allowing us to go back to some form of sport. So over the last few days, our club have been pretty lively in getting some friendlies going. So being able to watch football right in front of your eyes has been great. So we're definitely heading in the right direction here in New Zealand. It's been a whirlwind, but it's starting to settle down. It's great to watch some football.
Excellent. And certainly for those that are listening, one of the reasons that we've got Scott on today is he seems to be one of the few people that has done every single job in development of football across the country. So, we'll talk about some of those key areas today, and some of the areas which, we believe and Scott believes kind of can help you on your journey. So, as with many people that have been invited on, I first got to know Scott back in 2010, which was the launch of the Whole of Football Plan, which obviously is still rolling out in various stages across the country and across the region. So, Scott, if you go back to kind of that day, or January 2010, how long had you been in New Zealand before that, and what type of things were you doing to kind of lead you up to then joining the national workforce?
Yeah, I think I arrived in the country maybe 2005. I think I arrived in the country, came over to New Zealand, had a sister who's already resided in New Zealand, came over and played for Gisborne City in the Central League. Gisborne City were quite a dominant force back in those days in the Central League, where we had ex-All Whites coach in Kevin Fallon, who was the head coach of the team, and kind of just started on that journey, really just getting my feet under the table, learning the structures of New Zealand football. And then the opportunity came up where there was the goalkeeper at Gisborne City, Danny Robertson, who's now the academy manager at Burton Albion, made a huge contribution to the game in New Zealand. He was tasked with opening up an academy in Gisborne, and I was one of the coaches on that academy. And then one of the federations, Central Football Federation, which I think is Federation 4, they decided to put in a 20-hour-a-week game development officer in Gisborne. So I applied for the role, and I got the role, and the role basically just grew into something more full-time. So I think 6 months into the role, it was then being made a full-time role in Gisborne, and then the company went through like a form of restructuring with Bob Patterson came in, and he was the CEO, and he brought Brett Angel over to Central Football, and then our roles kind of changed under the restructure, and I moved to Palmerston North, which is Central Football's biggest region. So my role was, to begin with, was actually Palmerston North and Wanganui. So my area as a game development officer was from Dannevirke all the way to Mount Ruapehu. So a huge geographical area. I think I don't know, throwing a number out, it might have been like a 5-hour spread, or a 4.5-hour spread from that area. So that's how my role kind of started in Gisborne as a 20-hour-a-week development officer, and then grew into a full-time role under the guidance of Brett Angel at Central Football.
Nice, and obviously there's the traditional narrative is that you need to be in either say Auckland or Wellington or Christchurch, these bigger cities. What were the advantages of working in Gisborne? Obviously Palmerston North is quite populous, but some of the more areas that aren't traditionally associated with national programs or national league teams and things like that. What were some of the good things about working in those areas?
I think it was more of an untouched area where you could implement development programs, and they were fully supported by the local community. The football programs were. Gisborne, still to this day, and even back in those days, just from my time being in Gisborne, they were. It was football is a well reported on sport, with the Gisborne Herald obviously doing good, with reporters like Ian Gillies and John Gillies. And John Hill, who are like ex-All Whites and gone to World Cups and things. So Gisborne's still got that football heritage, and there's a lot of people in Gisborne that do good things. So football doesn't sleep in those small areas. It's still quite a force. I think the one thing that happened in Gisborne, which they struggled with a little bit, was when Gisborne City came out of the Central League, and then people would expect that the community to die and things like that, but it didn't. And they've still got some good teams playing in the local Napier competition, but there's been a few players that have come out of Gisborne that have been good players, and have been tried and tested and tried to make an impact in age group teams, and gone to national talent centres when they were formed, and they play national age group tournament with a good sprinkle of Gisborne players. So it was good because the programs were always supported. That's probably the main thing that I found in those areas. And Palmerston North, when I went to Palmerston, still had a national league team in Young Heart Manor 2. So that was a thriving footballing area. Palmerston North was when Young Heart Manor 2 were operating. And my first year in Palmerston, I took the National Youth League team, which was Young Heart Manor 2 then. So that was my first introduction into Palmerston. Really, just moved to Palmerston, and then met the GM of Young Heart, and then within 2 hours, I'd signed a different contract, and I was the National Youth League head coach, working underneath Bob Sober. Bob Sober was the National League head coach then, and did an unbelievable job with Young Heart Manor 2, and they had some successful years as a franchise.
So obviously during your time in that region, and precluding your eventual move to Wellington, you did a lot of stuff. You were involved in national talent centres, you were involved in regional camps, national talent centre spin-offs. I mean, what were some of the main highlights for you, during that time, in development, if you like, that you really kind of look back on fondly?
Yeah, I think the journey that I went on as a young coach helped me understand a lot more about the game, and just on my coaching repertoire on how I deal with different circumstances. I think one of my first introductions into the role was when there used to be a federation tournament in Napier, and then you had US Soccer 1 and all the YBOT were involved, and the coaches that were coaching the teams in those days were some you could throw names out: Paul Temple, Jose, Darren Baisley, Declan Edge, I think, was coaching a YBOT team. The sprinkle of coaches around coaching in those days was huge, and that tournament will always stick out in my mind as one where, watching the games, that you could see the quality of player in New Zealand. But I guess the biggest thing for me was the whole of football rollout, when, like you say, we all got taken to, I think it was OFC, wasn't it, by Mount Smart? And John Herdman and Bev Priestman and Johan and Simon Eadie and the New Zealand football staff rolled out this huge program across the nation. And I was working for Central with I think Jonathan Gould was at Central Football then, actually, and he was the FDO in Napier, and Brett Angel was our football development manager, so he was our boss, and he took the whole of football into an area that he felt that would develop us as people as well. So that helped me engage in obviously running all of the products, literally being on the grass, working with Let's Play football in schools, coach education. That was my beginning of my journey in coach education, because Brett felt that it was a need, that because of our geographical spread, that it was just the FDO's role to go into that. So those few days really stuck out in my mind, that I was involved in football, and it was becoming quite serious, because of the rollout, of how substantial the rollout was, and the job that we were heading down the right lines of basically directing the junior game, basically, because it was more of a junior rollout than anything else. So that really stands out as one moment for me, definitely. And I'd definitely say the next moment would be, which was a privileged moment, was being invited to coach on the National Talent Centre. My first time working in a national setup, working and wearing the fern as a coach was a proud moment, even though some people may say it was just a national talent centre. They were quite huge because they were new back then, so they were quite it was quite a big thing to be invited on as a coach, and working with and alongside some exceptional coaches. Maurice Tillotson being one, fantastic person, fantastic coach, ex-all-white coaches around you, learning constantly, being at a residential, working hard with the players, staying up till midnight, marking rubrics, but drinking cups of tea with, like-minded coaches that were all there for the right reasons. And it was to basically develop the game or move the game forward. So that was quite important. It was quite nice. Mm. So they're probably two moments in my coaching career in New Zealand where, I learnt a lot in those periods of the direction I wanted to go in as a person, and working with really, really grassroots clubs, delivering products on the grass, to obviously going through the raft of other things that I've done in national talent centres and where I am now. And to the point where, I ended up directing, I was an NTC director of a camp at Rathkiel for one holiday period. So, and that was another proud moment, that, you've come from, a 20-hour-a-week role in Gisborne, rolling out, grassroots programs, and then, within 4 or 5 years, you're a National Talent Centre director. And they're proud moments. You look back at them and they're really proud, and look back in how you've grown and what you've done. They're quite important milestones in where I'm at now as a 38-year-old.
Mm. I mean, I've been fortunate to share a number of those experiences with you, Scotty, and I share the sentiment certainly around, that first initiation, if you like, into the whole football plan. It was, for me, probably a reason that I'm still involved in football to this day. And again, I share your sentiment on, I guess, the pride of being involved in the National Talent Centre, also directing. I mean, they're probably moments that a number of people may not recognise the significance of, both in terms of your obviously role in the sport, but also like to you and what it means to you as a person. So, I mean, in terms of those feelings, have those been, are they replicated when you kind of have gone through into senior football? Do you still get the same sense of kind of pride and feeling of community, or is it, I guess, more now on a club level as opposed to a national level?
Yeah, I think so. Obviously, with with the Miramar Rangers and like the community work that we did, that the boys do at the club here, that's still, they still come to me and ask for my advice, and that never leaves. I came into the game at the infancy of the game, as in grassroots, and then been able to shape a coaching career to the point where I'm at national league now, but you still walk around parks, and I've got a little man playing now who's 7 years old, and those feelings and those thoughts still come back, and you can help still offer advice to clubs on how to shape certain programs or products that you can turn around and say, oh, by the way, I was part of that initial whole of football rollout, and I don't think there's many people in the country that can say that they've done that, and like you said, it was a proud moment for a lot of us, because it was really serious, and you felt like you were part of something, and you were driving the game somewhere. And yeah, and then like the other element is being a National League head coach and worked across some of the rounds. There's players that you're working with or you're up and against that you remember when they were 12 years old, 13 years old as young players, but now they're fully fledged 20-year-olds, 22-year-olds that are now playing National League football. So you can see their journey as well, which relatively only young, but you can see why a lot of people stay in the game because of the journey that they've been on as well. So it's quite important that that's recognised by when people look at older coaches that kind of get pushed by the wayside because of their age, because they're prehistoric or they're dinosaurs. They so much knowledge in there that it's just still ready. They're still ready to give. So it's important that just buddying up with some of them or having a cup of tea with them sometimes is quite important.
Mm. And how much would you attribute, I guess, having that rounded journey yourself to leading you into coaching in the National League? I mean, do you think it's helped kind of having that broader knowledge of the way football's developed? I mean, did that help you get the job? I mean, where would you place that in the importance of your league now?
Yeah, I think looking back at the time I spent with Central Football, I think I was there for 9-10 years, and Brett making the call that as FDOs we were in charge of coach education in our areas, our regions, sorry, and I think that shaped or keeps reminding me of who I am and what I should do and what I shouldn't do. So coach education has probably played one of the biggest parts in the way I coach and the way I operate. And that's not just being a candidate on a C license or a B license or an A license. That's from understanding the direction that New Zealand football have gone and evolved in coach education over the years to where I haven't seen the courses recently, but definitely where they were 2 years ago. And then some of the work that obviously yourself did with the coach developer, which also just, if I wasn't involved in the federation work and made these connections with people who help the game and help the players. So coach education has played a huge role in how I operate and how I do things. And that's from taking bits and pieces from the way people operate and the way people work, and also the advice that they're willing to give. I think coach educators are people who, if you actually were on a course and spent some time with them, then they could give you a lot more information and help than what you think if you're a candidate. Just means you have to, go and sit next to them for 10 minutes and say at lunch, can I talk to you? And then just, rattle their brains on some things. So So I'd say coach education has shaped where I am now as a National League head coach, rather than the work that I've done in the grassroots areas. I think the work I've done in the grassroots areas, in my opinion, is I've given the game something that everyone should do if they're involved in football. I think I've given the game some service to helping players. But for me, is how I operate, and coach education would be the number one way that has definitely impacted the way I work. Definitely.
And with that, you obviously went through a number of the coach education systems in recent years. That's culminated obviously in the OFC NZA license, which you completed a few years ago. How quickly after that did you then, I guess, shift to Team Wellington, and kind of how did that come about?
Yeah, so I was working in Palmerston North, and I'd come to the point where it was time to move on from the development role that I was in, and I'd had a dabble in being a Central League head coach with Palmerston North Marist, and it gave me the opportunity then to progress in what I wanted to do, and what I've always wanted to do is always wanted to be involved in football at a high level, whether that was when I was playing, when I was younger, or coaching. So decided to make the move to Wellington. So Jose got the head coach role at Team Wellington, and Jose and I had met each other at National Talent Centre camps when he was the under-17 coach for a few cycles ago, and he was down there scouting players and having a look at players, and we formed a relationship, and we hit it off quite well. And he recognised that Palmerston probably wasn't that too far away from Wellington, and said, "Look, do you want to come down and be my assistant?" Obviously, I'd been on the first part of the A license with Jose as well, so it worked. It worked in quite well. So I decided to make the move to Wellington and work with Jose at Team Wellington. And in the midst of all that happening, I got a call from Paul Temple from the Wellington Phoenix Academy, and they offered me a full-time role at the Phoenix Academy. So it all kind of fell into place, really. So I was working with Team Wellington and working with the Wellington Phoenix Academy as well. So I was still working in the youth development phase, but also cutting my teeth a little bit at the National League at a fantastic club in Team Wellington, which obviously has had unbelievable success prior to Jose, and obviously when Jose was here as well, like the success that the club has had has been fantastic, and taught me even more about who I am and where I want to go.
Mm. And during that success, I mean, I'm sure many people talked about the Club World Cup. I mean, where does that rank in terms of just general life experiences? Can you give us an indication as to kind of what that was all about? Was it completely different?
Yeah, more of a dream, really. Club World Cup was bizarre. I guess the thing about the Club World Cup was the journey that we'd been on obviously I can only talk from when Jose and I were here, is the journey that we went on as a club to get to the Club World Cup is so rewarding that it's there because of what you have to do to get there. Where, I don't know if that many people understand how difficult it is to qualify for the O-League, but then obviously be in the O-League and qualify for and to go to the Club World Cup. But that what you have to do to get to the Club World Cup is like one of the hardest things I've ever experienced, because of the talent of the island players is huge. The conditions that you're in, because you're not used to them, is hard. But then the reward of being in the Club World Cup is when you look back and you kind of look at it and just go like, we did it. Like how how on earth did we, score a 89th minute goal against, Marist in the Solomons when it was 44 degrees, 100% humidity, 20,000 people cheering on the home team, and we managed to score in the 89th minute, and we managed to then go on and win the group. And you look back at all of those moments in the time that we had leading up to the Club World Cup to qualify for the Club World Cup were, they're memories that will last a lifetime. The Club World Cup is a dream. That's how I look at it. It was an experience that you really were like a person at a celebrity. That's how they treated you. You were like someone who was really, really important over there. So, and I think I've heard the feedback on FIFA tournaments and how they're run and how you treated and things, but that was on a scale of something that you can't imagine what it was like. Just a dream. The Club World Cup was a dream.
Was there any sense of normality during that time? Were you able to train as normal, or was everything different? Did the players act differently? Were you as coaches doing things different? I mean, was there a massive adaptation, or did you try and keep pretty grounded in terms of how you would work together and how you would operate with the players and coaching staff?
Yeah, we operated the same way. It was just the fact that the players were at our disposal to train whenever we wanted to train when we were over there. Whereas when we're here in the National League, obviously we are amateur. We're an amateur club, so we train of an evening. We don't train during the day. The facilities are good facilities here than what we have at David Farrington Park, but we didn't operate any different with our players at all when we were over there. It just gave us the opportunity where we acted and operated like pure professionals, and so did the players. And that's why I think that we were so close against a very good team over there, that because the players that we had approached everything in a professional way, and they felt professional. So we didn't operate any different. We did feel like everything was normal because we were on the grass operating with the same players and the same group. They were fantastic, and they embraced the experience just as much as what we did. But it was everything about just going to training was quite special. Like the bus would turn up and you'd have, you were escorted by, police cars, and, they'd stop the roads and the highways so we could get to where we needed to go. And the training pitch was like the best training pitch I've ever seen in my life. And everything was just, we didn't, there's some things, like the players grabbed the goals and moved the goals, like there was people there doing that for us, not that should make a difference, but it was just little things that, you didn't have to worry or think about. They just happened. Amazing.
And there's clearly some, rejigging of worldwide competitions, of which, the Club World Cup is part of that rejig. I mean, how important is it for you as a head coach and the club to kind of have these pinnacle events to aspire to? I mean, where would you rank competition and that ability to play against the best in terms of helping motivation of your young players and your club?
Yeah, it's what we live for. It's the reason why we do what we do. The Club World Cup is the carrot that every National League club should be aspiring to get to. That's why the O-League is crucial. The O-League is vital for us to be able to then go and represent New Zealand in the Club World Cup. And that's why obviously the National League is crucial for us to showcase New Zealand in the islands as well. There's reasons why people operate in the clubs that they operate in. And just talking from a Team Wellington perspective, there's people involved in Team Wellington do what they do because they love football and they love the club, but they're doing it for all the right reasons, and because winning is so important to them, but so is the island experience and playing against top teams and players in the islands, and then also, going to represent New Zealand and Oceania in the Club World Cup is, it's huge for New Zealand to be able to do that, where you are in a 17 tournament with some of the best clubs and players in the world. Real Madrid, Boca Juniors, Liverpool won it. It's just a dream, and you're playing against unbelievable players that your analysis and your detail on what you have to work on throughout the lead into just that one game is player profiling, making sure that you've ticked every box on the movements that player makes. It just enhances you as a coach on your attention to detail, because if you don't have the attention to detail, these players can hurt you quickly. So it's just important that New Zealand has that opportunity to represent itself in Oceania and to represent New Zealand football and Oceania further on, just to keep us on the map.
And with that, then obviously there's a bit of uncertainty at the moment around what those next steps will be. I guess what are you doing and what are the club doing to help raise the standard or raise the bar of football in your region? I mean, is there anything you're doing from a personal coach perspective? Is there anything the club are doing? How are you ensuring that you are still at the top, ready for when that point does come?
Yeah, I guess everyone's in sort of limbo because of the restrictions on what we can and what we can't do. Just that's just for public, basically. That goes for everything with Team Wellington. We're just we're still operating the same. We still have our eyes set on the National League when it starts. We qualified for the O League, so we're prepping ourselves to get ready for the O League, to go and put a good to showcase ourselves forwards in that, and making sure that we're able to represent ourselves in the Club World Cup, which is what Team Wellington want to do. That's the reason why Team Wellington are Team Wellington, because they have aspirations of going to the Club World Cup, and that's the drive, that's the goal. So at the moment, it's really good that we're able to get the Central League underway. So the Central League starts on the 13th. So that's great for the players in the region to be able to start playing again. And it gives me a good opportunity to go around and have a look at what is going on in Wellington, because obviously the ability to try and sign or try and get overseas players is quite limited now because of obviously restrictions. So it's making sure that the players in Wellington, it's great that they've got a competition firstly, and then secondly it's reaching out to the coaches to say, hey, can I come visit your trainings, or I'll be at most of the games, all of the games anyway that I'm able to get to. So it's just making sure that people can see me and I'm visible. But as far as we're concerned, we're business as usual. So nothing's really changing from a Team Wellington point of view.
Excellent, and I'm sure those local coaches will be delighted to hear that you'll be out there and watching. And I think it's a really good point, around the shift in focus that recruitment might now take, given the restrictions in place. So certainly opportunities there for players to step up and represent the club. Thank you for sharing these, Scotty. I mean, I'm again had a number of these experiences with you over the years and know how, I guess, passionate and dedicated you are to the country. And for me, it's no surprise that you are where you are now, leading a National League franchise. So thank you for sharing your story today. Thanks, Stephen. Really appreciate being invited on. You've had some impressive speakers and guests, so it's nice to be put amongst them. Excellent, thank you. And for those that are listening, again, an excellent opportunity to listen to not only one of the coaches in the Men's National League, but also someone that has done those variety of roles across the region, is also committed to their coach education alongside that. So certainly hope that people have taken down some notes from today, and the feedback that we've got so far from some of the other ones suggesting that's what's happening. In terms of where we're going with the rest of the playing field, this is the penultimate episode, so we have one more episode left in this series. I just want to thank everybody for their feedback and their comments so far. We're certainly committed to ensuring that we shine the light on coaches in New Zealand and showcase some of the excellent operators such as Scotty across the country. So keep tuning in, keep subscribing, and we'll see you next time on the playing field. Thank you.